What if everything you thought you knew about human evolution was wrong? Picture a creature, not quite ape, not quite human, walking upright through ancient landscapes millions of years ago, leaving behind nothing but cryptic fragments of bone. For over a century, scientists have been chasing the elusive missing link, the supposed final bridge between us and our primate cousins. But what if this link isn't missing at all, because it never existed in the way we imagined? In this video, we'll dive deep into the fossil record, genetic evidence, and groundbreaking discoveries that are rewriting our understanding of human origins. Prepare to question everything. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Question. Long before modern science had the tools to decode DNA or dig deep into fossil beds, ancient philosophers and theologians tried to explain where we came from. For centuries, religious texts framed humanity as a special creation, crafted perfectly, uniquely, and separately from all other animals. But in 1859, Charles Darwin shattered that view with On the Origin of Species, introducing the idea that all species, including humans, evolved through natural selection. The implications were explosive. If we evolved from other animals, then surely there must have been some transitional form, some ancient being that stood between modern humans and our closest living relatives, the great apes. Thus was born the idea of the missing link. At first, it was a simple question. If humans descended from ape-like ancestors, where was the evidence? The fossil record at the time was sparse, and many scientists expected to find a single, clear-cut skeleton that bridged the gap, an undeniable hybrid between ape and man. The idea captured the public's imagination, becoming a cultural obsession through cartoons, tabloids, and Victorian debate halls. But the more fossils we found, the more complex the picture became. In 1891, Dutch anatomist Eugène Dubois discovered Java Man, a mysterious hominin with both primitive and modern traits, sparking fierce debate about whether it was the long-sought link. Then came the infamous Piltdown man hoax, in which a human skull was fraudulently paired with an ape's jaw to fit the narrative people were desperate to believe. As the scientific community peeled back the layers of deception, they realized something profound. There was no straight line in evolution. Fossils weren't falling neatly into place like beads on a string. Instead, they revealed a chaotic branching process filled with dead ends, cousins, and evolutionary experiments. Each new discovery, whether it was Neanderthals, Homo habilis, or Australopithecus afarensis, seemed to answer one question while raising 5 more. The term missing link began to feel outdated, a relic of a time when we imagined evolution as a ladder, not a tree. But the question at its core, how did we become human, remained as vital and electrifying as ever. In this chapter, we begin that journey, not by seeking a single fossil, but by unraveling the complex, messy, and often surprising process that shaped the human story. Chapter 2. Tiktaalik and the Myth of Linear Evolution. Long before the first hominin stepped onto the African savanna, an even older story was unfolding, one that set the stage for every evolutionary tale to follow. Around 375 million years ago, in the murky waters of the Devonian period, a strange fish with lungs and limb-like fins dragged itself onto land. This creature, later named Tiktaalik, was neither fully fish nor fully amphibian, but something in between, a transitional form caught in the act of becoming something new. Discovered in the Canadian Arctic in 2004, Tiktaalik possessed a flat crocodile-like head, a mobile neck, robust ribs, and most intriguingly, primitive limbs complete with elbow-like joints and wrist structures. It was hailed as the quintessential missing link between aquatic and terrestrial vertebrates. But even this revolutionary find didn't come without complication. Just 6 years after Tiktaalik's discovery, fossilized footprints found in Poland suggested that creatures had already been walking on land nearly 9 million years earlier. These findings raised a provocative question. If organisms were walking before Tiktaalik, was it really the first? Or was it simply another branch in an increasingly tangled tree of life? The case of Tiktaalik exposes a central flaw in how we think about evolution as a linear sequence, one form neatly giving rise to the next. Reality is far more intricate. Evolution is not a straight march of progress, but a vast branching process filled with convergences, reversals, and multiple experiments in adaptation. There is no single first amphibian, bird, or mammal, just transitional populations exploring new ecological possibilities over millennia. This myth of linearity still haunts public understanding of evolution. We crave simplicity, a before and after, a clear turning point, a singular moment of transformation. But nature rarely cooperates with our need for narrative. For example, whales, creatures that appear perfectly suited to life in water, are descendants of land-dwelling mammals. They returned to the sea after their ancestors had long since abandoned it. And their closest relatives, not fish or seals, but hippos and even-toed ungulates like cows and deer. Their evolution wasn't a one-way ticket, but a looping detour, a U-turn across time and adaptation. So when we speak of a missing link, what are we really looking for? A fossil that confirms our assumptions, a symbol of progress, or perhaps a deeper sense of continuity between what we are and what came before? As scientists have discovered more fossils and refined genetic tools, the very idea of a single transitional form seems increasingly outdated. Instead, we're confronted with a multitude of links, some direct ancestors, others evolutionary, cousins, each contributing a piece to the sprawling puzzle of life. And this complexity doesn't end with fish crawling onto land. It follows us all the way through the story of mammals, primates, and eventually humans. Just as Tiktaalik challenged the neat boundary between fish and land animals, the early hominin fossils we'll explore in later chapters challenge the line between ape and human. As with Tiktaalik, the search for the missing link in human evolution may say more about us, our desire for clarity and control, than it does about the chaotic creative process of natural selection. Evolution is not about perfection, it's about adaptation, trial, and error. And every fossil we find, no matter how incomplete, is not a missing link in the sense of a gap waiting to be filled, but rather a snapshot of a once living being that thrived in its own time. In this chapter, Tiktaalik doesn't just show us the leap from water to land, it shows us how much our thinking about evolution still needs to evolve. The more we search for a single answer, the more we are reminded that life's history is a story not of lines, but of branching paths. Some leading to us, many leading elsewhere, but all part of the same vast, interconnected tree of life. Chapter 3, The Great Rift, Fossils, Hoaxes, and the African Revelation. As the 20th century dawned, the search for the missing link shifted into high gear, driven by both scientific curiosity and a deep cultural hunger to understand human origins. But what began as a noble pursuit quickly became tangled in national pride, personal ambition, and outright deception. Nowhere is this more evident than in the infamous case of Piltdown man, a fossil discovered in England in 1912 that appeared to perfectly bridge the gap between apes and humans, with a human-like skull and an ape-like jaw. Celebrated as the long-awaited missing link, Piltdown man remained unchallenged for decades, reinforcing the idea that human evolution was centered in Europe. It wasn't until 1953 that the fossil was exposed as a deliberate hoax, a human skull combined with an orangutan's jaw, stained and filed to fit the narrative. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific world and forced a reckoning. If even experts could be fooled by what they wanted to believe, what else had been misinterpreted or overlooked? While Europe chased ghosts, a quieter revolution was unfolding in Africa. In 1924, a small skull with both ape-like and human-like features was unearthed in South Africa. It belonged to a child of the species Australopithecus africanus, nicknamed the Taung child. Discovered by Raymond Dart, it was the first clear evidence that early human ancestors might have evolved in Africa, not Europe or Asia. Dart's claim was controversial and initially dismissed, partly due to lingering faith in Piltdown, and partly due to colonial biases that saw Africa as an unlikely cradle for something as advanced as humanity. But as the decades wore on and more fossils were found, Lucy, Homo habilis, Sahelanthropus, a pattern emerged. East and South Africa were teeming with hominin remains, each offering a snapshot of different stages in our evolutionary journey. The Great Rift Valley, with its unique geology and exposed ancient layers, became the epicenter of paleoanthropology. Here, volcanic ash and tectonic shifts had preserved millions of years of evolutionary history, like pages in a book waiting to be read. Fossils discovered in Olduvai Gorge, Ethiopia's Afar Triangle, and Kenya's Turkana Basin confirmed what Darwin had suggested long before genetic tools existed, that humans most likely originated in Africa. This shift in focus marked a turning point in the quest for the missing link. Instead of searching for one perfect fossil, researchers began to see human evolution as a branching process, one that included numerous hominin species with a variety of traits: upright walking, tool use, expanding brain size, and changing teeth patterns. Each fossil didn't replace the last. Instead, it added a new limb to the evolutionary tree. But with this growing complexity came a new challenge. Which of these species were actually in our direct line, and which were evolutionary side branches? Species like Australopithecus afarensis, famously represented by Lucy, walked upright yet retained climbing features. Homo habilis used tools but still had a small brain. Paranthropus boisei had massive jaws adapted for chewing tough plants, but eventually vanished without descendants. The picture wasn't becoming clearer, it was becoming more complicated and in many ways more fascinating. Yet even with mounting evidence from Africa, the public's imagination still clung to the idea of a single first human, a fossil that would mark the clean break between ape and man. The problem? Nature doesn't draw such sharp lines. Evolution is a slow, messy process filled with gradual shifts, overlapping traits, and periods where multiple species coexisted. The more scientists searched, the more they realized that the question might be wrong to begin with. Maybe there isn't a single missing link. Maybe there are many, and perhaps none of them will ever fit the romanticized image we carry in our heads. In truth, the concept of a missing link may tell us more about human psychology, our need for definitive answers, clean origin stories, and narrative closure than it does about evolution itself. But that doesn't mean the fossils are any less important. Each one is a messenger from the deep past, whispering secrets of how we became what we are. In this chapter, the chase for the missing link begins to transform, not into a quest for a single relic, but a broader investigation into a tangled, branching history, with Africa as the stage and time as the storyteller. Chapter 4: Ancestors or Cousins. The Puzzle of Sahelanthropus, Orrorin, and Ardi. By the early 21st century, with Africa firmly established as the cradle of human evolution, attention turned to fossils dating as close as possible to the divergence between humans and our closest living relatives, chimpanzees. Genetic studies had narrowed the split to roughly 6 to 7 million years ago, setting a target for fossil hunters. The first major contender to emerge was Sahelanthropus chidensis, discovered in Chad in 2001. The nearly complete skull, nicknamed Tumai, showed a strange mix of traits: a small chimp-sized brain but with a flatter face and, most importantly, a foramen magnum, the hole in the base of the skull positioned in a way that hinted at upright posture. At first, many scientists saw this as the strongest candidate yet for the last common ancestor, LCA, of humans and chimpanzees. However, the excitement was soon met with skepticism. Was Tumai truly bipedal? A single distorted skull couldn't answer that conclusively. The debate deepened in 2020 when a long overlooked femur found near the skull but initially labeled as an animal bone was analyzed and judged inconsistent with upright walking. But in 2022, additional bones suggested possible bipedalism once more, leaving scientists divided. Not long after Tumai's discovery, another fossil entered the ring, Orrorin tugenensis, found in Kenya in 2000. Unlike Tumai, Orrorin didn't come with a skull, but rather some surprisingly well-preserved thigh bones. These femora suggested strong adaptations for upright walking, more so than even some later hominins. Dating to about 6 million years ago, Orrorin seemed to fit both the timeline and the anatomy, and many regarded it as a stronger LCA candidate than Sahelanthropus. But without a skull, key questions about its brain and face remained unanswered. Then came Ardipithecus remedus, affectionately known as Ardi, discovered in Ethiopia in the 1990s but fully published only in 2009. Ardi, dated to 4.4 million years ago, was not old enough to be the actual LCA, but was likely close in form. She presented a striking mosaic: bipedal traits in the pelvis, but an opposable big toe and long arms suited for climbing. Ardi challenged the assumption that the LCA looked like a modern chimpanzee. In fact, she suggested that both humans and chimps had evolved in very different ways from a more generalized ancestor, one that may have neither knuckle-walked nor brachiated like orangutans. Ardi also showed less pronounced canine teeth, hinting at a less aggressive, more socially cooperative behavior than previously assumed, possibly closer to modern bonobos than chimps. Taken together, Sahelanthropus, Orrorin, and Ardi painted a complex picture, not a single transitional form, but a range of early hominins, each with unique adaptations, some arboreal, some terrestrial, some both. Instead of discovering a straight lineage, scientists found themselves mapping a bushy tree of overlapping species. Were any of them the missing link? Possibly. But just as likely, they could be evolutionary cousins, close relatives that diverged early, leaving no modern descendants. In paleoanthropology, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The fossil record is maddeningly incomplete, and small bones, especially from primates, rarely fossilize well. Entire species could have come and gone without leaving a trace. Worse still, reverse evolution and convergent traits muddy the waters further. A creature might appear human-like not because it's an ancestor, but because it evolved similar traits in response to similar pressures. The deeper we dig, the more the idea of a neat, linear path to modern humans dissolves. Each of these fossil finds, Tumai's flat face, Orrorin's strong thighs, Ardi's grasping feet, offers a tantalizing glimpse, but none gives a full answer. Yet the beauty lies in the mosaic. Evolution doesn't move in straight lines, but in bursts, tangents, and loops. These early hominins may never give us the definitive aha moment of a single missing link, but they illuminate a vital truth: that our origins are not rooted in a lone transformation, but in a sprawling web of adaptations, experiments, and branching possibilities. In the search for our roots, it's not about finding the ancestor, it's about understanding the world in which these creatures lived, moved, and evolved. And perhaps, in the end, that's a much richer story than any single missing fossil could ever tell. Chapter 5. Rethinking the Missing Link: From Myth to Mosaic. As we stand at the end of this journey through time, it becomes increasingly clear that the missing link is not a thing to be found, but a concept to be rethought. The very term suggests a single pivotal fossil that would tie all the strands of our evolution together, a clean and satisfying bridge between humans and apes. But evolution has never worked that way. Instead of a ladder with evenly spaced rungs, human ancestry resembles a tangled web, complex, branching, and often chaotic. The fossils we have, Sahelanthropus, Orrorin, Ardi, Lucy, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and many others, represent snapshots of an ever-evolving experiment in adaptation. Some were likely ancestors, others evolutionary side branches, and a few may have left no descendants at all. Yet each one is significant, not as a missing link, but as a chapter in a story still being written, even today, with advances in genetics confirming our deep connection to chimpanzees and bonobos, sharing nearly 99% of our DNA. The search for the exact moment of divergence remains elusive. Molecular clocks suggest a split around 6 to 7 million years ago, but fossils are too rare, too fragmentary, and too morphologically diverse to settle the question definitively. The deeper we dig, the more we realize that our expectations were shaped less by science and more by narrative, by the human urge to simplify, to draw a straight line through a nonlinear process. And that brings us to an important reckoning. Maybe the missing link was a flawed idea from the beginning, born out of our need for tidy origins, our discomfort with uncertainty, and our desire to feel set apart from the animal kingdom. But the irony is that by letting go of the myth, we get closer to the truth. What emerges is not a single ancestor, but a vibrant cast of characters, each telling part of the story of what it means to become human. From the upright walkers to the first tool makers, from species that climbed trees to those who ventured into open grasslands, our lineage is a story of resilience, innovation, and remarkable diversity. And this complexity doesn't end with fossils. Cultural evolution, symbolic thought, language, fire, art. These are layers that emerged far later, adding new dimensions to what it means to be human. But they are built upon the deep biological foundation laid by those ancient hominins whose bones we now study. The story of human evolution is not about finding a single missing piece. It's about piecing together an ever-expanding puzzle from scattered fragments, from genetics, archaeology, paleontology, and comparative anatomy. And in doing so, we're not just learning about the past, we're learning about ourselves, why we walk the way we do, why we think, remember, and feel in uniquely human ways, why we form societies, care for our young, create tools, and bury our dead. These traits did not emerge overnight. They were forged over millions of years of trial and error. And while no single fossil can reveal the full scope of that transformation, together they form a compelling mosaic, rich, messy, incomplete, and profoundly human. So, is the missing link really missing? Or have we simply outgrown the idea altogether? The truth is, every fossil, every gene, every discovery is a link, not to some imagined ideal form, but to the real, complex, branching, and beautiful story of life. In embracing the ambiguity, we honor the science and the journey that brought us here. Because in the end, the missing link isn't a fossil waiting to be unearthed. It's a myth we must let go of to see the full picture clearly. Evolution is not a story with a beginning and an end. It's a sprawling epic still in motion. And we, just like Ardi, Lucy, and all the others before us, are part of its unfolding narrative.